Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would note to the chairman that I have invited the chairman and other Democrats multiple times to join me in the Super PAC Elimination Act, which I've introduced in multiple Congresses, that does two very simple things. Number one, it allows unlimited individual contributions directly to campaigns. And number two, it requires immediate 24-hour disclosure. And as a functional matter, it would eliminate super PACs and largely eliminate dark money, and it would do it on both sides. And that solution, we have yet to have a Democrat interested in actually doing this. I would note to my good friend Senator Tillis that the charts were really great with all the boxes. They would have been more persuasive had you used red yarn to connect them. I'm just it weaves a much better web and a much better story. You know, there are a lot of issues in politics on which we see hypocrisy. There's the old line that hypocrisy is the tribute vice pays to virtue. But maybe no issue has greater hypocrisy than debates over campaign finance reform and so-called dark money. Because Democrats thunder against dark money, and yet Democrats dominate dark money. If you look in 2016, of the top 20 organizations that gave money for political speech, 14 of them gave virtually all of their money to Democrats. If you look at the top 10 organizations and individuals contributing to super PACs, 8 of them, only 2 were Republican donors, 8 were Democratic donors. In that cycle, the top 20 super PAC donors gave $422 million to Democrats and $189 million to Republicans. Those numbers only grew. In 2018, Democratic dark money outnumbered Republican money 2-1, and in 2020, to defeat their nemesis, Donald J. Trump, Democratic dark money outnumbered Republican dark money 6-1. So all of the people thundering about dark money are getting elected with it. Now, Mr. Walter, we have at this hearing, albeit virtually, the leaders of groups such as the Center for Media Democracy and People for the American Way criticizing dark money from conservative groups. I want to make sure everyone understands. Does the Center for Media and Democracy or the People for American Way, do they accept dark money?
Absolutely, Senator.
And is there some magical distinction between left-wing or socialist dark money and conservative dark money?
None at all.
And when the left-wing dark money organizations spend money in judicial nomination fights, what do they do, and is it any different than what the conservative organizations are doing?
None at all. I've got a demand justice spending $10 million to keep Ginsburg's seat vacant, for instance. News clip.
And now that Joe Biden is president, do we expect that these left-wing dark money groups will be working with Democratic senators and working to help confirm Democratic judges?
Every single day.
Arabella Advisors has been mentioned several times, and you write in your testimony that Politico has called this one of Arabella's nonprofits, the 1630 Fund, a massive dark money network. Why is that?
Well, on almost every scale, it registers. It's some of the top in lobbying, some of the top in fundraising, some of the top in TV ad buys against Republicans. In every possible way, it is a huge heavyweight.
There's also been a lot of coverage and hand-wringing about conservative groups that advocate judges who will be faithful to the Constitution. For example, the Washington Post wrote a long hit piece on my longtime friend Leonard Leo and his involvement with dark money. But curiously, the Washington Post never wrote about Demand Justice or other groups who were opposing President Trump's nominees using massive amounts of dark money. Why do you think that is? Do you think the Post simply wasn't aware that there was dark money on the other side?
Senator, I know for a fact that's not the reason. I know the lead author of that article, and as soon as the Leonard Leo article came out, I wrote him and said, hey, very interesting piece, but you know, there's a huge network on the other side, so you're going to tell the other side, right? Talk about that, and because they use more opaque funding methods for what they're doing. And I sent him my research, and You know, I think I got a, yeah, someday maybe, but that's been years. No interest.
So the Post didn't cover it at all. All right, final question for Mr. Jealous. Senator Whitehouse has invited you here to make the case for transparency, and maybe this hearing is a good place to start. People for the American Way is a 501c4 that doesn't have to disclose its donors. In the interest of disclosure and transparency, which you're calling for, which Senator Whitehouse is calling for, will you today tell this committee your top 5 donors and how much they've contributed?
You know, would be happy to disclose that. Absolutely. Don't have it on me. Would be happy to disclose that. Would be happier, Senator Cruz, if you would commit to work with us to figure out how we finally build bipartisan agreement. You say that there's more dark money on the left, and it would seem to be in your best interest to actually help us champion transparency.
Well, then perhaps we have an agreement, number 1, to get disclosure, and number 2, if we can work together on the Super PAC Elimination Act, that would be a major bipartisan accomplishment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.